And the fact of the matter is, they got that through a text. And Jamar Smith, the quarterback for Birmingham, literally reposted that and said, "Are they going to have the press release through text too?" And that's an impactful thing to the players. I don't. I understand you got to do this, you know, in a sense of somewhat secrecy to keep everybody out of a panic. But woo, this is kind of
Well,
nuts.
sending something that big via text message will send people into a panic, right? The I understand talking to players and talking to organizations and getting these pieces together, but having those kind of communications through text message is very, very easy to misunderstand something. So I can understand where the players are upset too. But like we were saying before we solved the technical difficulties, um, Scooby Wright, absolutely amazing. And with him posting something like that on X, it looks very, very bad, especially when there's no major press release or some of this stuff was happening before press releases. It's
So
great.
first things first, you mentioned earlier, but go ahead and refresh us about how things got started with the shotgun sports.
Yeah, so Shotgun Sports, once again, we were making memes and we were making all sorts of content. And we decided one day that we were going to make a meme page or we were going to make a bunch of pages. But I guess where I can expand on this is when people create a sports page, they want to become something. They want to become the next Barstool or a Nation Network or let's say fan sided. When people build these things, they really want to become something. So for us, we wanted to be like a Barstool Sports. So we all came together. We made a bunch of pages. You came on board. And we also didn't do this just by dealing with, let's say, NFL or MLB or some of the bigger leagues. We actually started, and like I said earlier, the AAF, the American Alliance of Football. And starting there really found us the hardcore fans and people that really love football a lot more than just an NFL team. And you yourself, you are one of those people. Myself, I like the CFL a little bit more than the NFL. So finding those like minded people was really, really challenging. But once again, here we are. You've been a major part of Shotgun Sports as well. And we've lost our pages. We've lost all of our pages once before. Um, we had somebody delete, 30 to 40 to 50,000 followers across 6 pages or 5 pages or whatever. And I think we kept one page out of that original mess. And that's actually Shotgun Sports, the court side, which you may be dabbling in here soon enough if things go well. But yeah,
Spoiler alert.
spoiler alert. I mean, we'll see, right? Nothing's
We'll
been
see. We'll
announced.
see.
We'll see. We'll see. We got to deal with the tangibles. But yeah, I mean, going from just making memes and content, and now we have a website where we're producing articles. We're covering major events in person. You actually covered the Birmingham Stallions season from the sidelines. So it's really cool to see how it's evolved. But yeah, the beginnings, December 31st, 2018. And we haven't looked back since. And we're officially going to be on our 5 years as of 10 to 15 days from now. So it's very, very exciting.
So, tell me a little bit about how you got it evolved into what it is today. How it.
How we got here, and a little bit more than just memes, right? How did we get out of just doing memes, and how did we find this new direction? So very good question. It has a lot to do with us
So you
losing
want to
our
tell us a little bit
pages.
about how the Horseman got
The
started?
other co-founder of Shotgun Sports,
So
Alex,
we had that first season, and we
he
had all
was
these
no longer
pockets of
interested in
fans
dealing with
that you would
the
see.
brand or
Hey,
making
there's a group of three
memes
or
or
four
making it
cheering over
bigger
here,
or
two or
doing
three
anything with it. So
here.
he
Some people
actually
had some
handed me the
signs
keys and
made,
said, "Hey, you can have
and
creative control
then we
and you
kind
can
of
do
got with
whatever you
the
want with
league, and we
Shotgun
attempted to
Sports,
become,
as long as
official.
it's,
We wanted to be an
not a bad
official fan
representative
club
of what we
because
do." And
I
so
work in
he
Atlanta
basically
a
handed over
lot,
the
and I go to a
keys,
lot of
and
games over there, and they have all these
I
official
got back into
clubs
making
for
memes, and I
everything they
still
do.
wanted to do something
Well, the
bigger,
league
but
was a little
the
apprehensive, like,
real
hey,
opportunity
how are these
was
guys going
when
to
the
act?
Edmonton Elks
How's
were
everything going
looking
to go
for, of
out?
the CFL, the Canadian Football
Um,
League. The
but
Edmonton
we still
Elks were
came
looking
together.
for
We got them.
influencers
We
or
convinced
people
them
to
to let
kind
us
of
sit
help
in
their brand
104 as
through
a complete
obviously
group to be as
losing
loud as
season after
possible.
losing season. And
And then
we put our
we
hands
found
up and
out that
said,
the
hey, we
league
make memes and
recognizes
stuff,
us
but
as
what
the
if we
only,
make
I hate to
this
use the word
bigger? What if
official,
we
but
make
the
a
only
fan hub?
recognized
What if we
fan
make like a
club
fan page
in the
for
USFL right
fans to
now.
all kind of talk around and talk in, and more than a Facebook group, but like a page that also makes a lot of content for Elks fans. So we somehow got the green light from the Edmonton Elks to go ahead and make a fan hub. And we did that, and Kathy and I were the ones who spearheaded that campaign. And over the last 2 years, we've now snowballed this to the point where we have a podcast, we are doing articles. It's a lot more than just memes, and we still put out memes on Mondays. We still do that kind of content, but now it's memes are great content and great entertainment and everything else, but there's not much substance to it. So now we're a full fan hub that can even take our own media photographs as well. So yeah, I mean, somehow we got into that, and we're trying to replicate that model. And
What made you decide to start the podcast, the X call?
the Elks Call podcast. So there's actually a really big story on this. Here in Edmonton, much like, you guys in the USA have ESPN, and then you also have ESPN Talk Radio. Up here, we have TSN, the sports network, or some people like to joke and call it Toronto Sports Network, because for whatever reason, Toronto teams always get talked about on there. But so TSN had a radio station here in Edmonton called TSN 1260. What ended up happening is one day I woke up after working a really long night shift or whatever. I woke up, I checked my phone, and X, Twitter at the time, X was blowing up because TSN 1260 was shut down. Very popular hosts, very successful radio platform. All of their shows were very popular. At night, sure, you get ESPN or whatever, but there could also be a Blue Jays game on there or many different games. So it was all of a sudden, it was a sudden emptiness that Edmonton sports fans felt. Every Edmonton sports fan that listened to TSN 1260 knew exactly what they lost. And shout out to 630 Ched and the guys over there. They do great, but TSN 1260 was the only real Edmonton sports talk all day long in your radio. You turn your key and you got it right there. So people felt extremely hurt over it. It was a massive deal in Edmonton. So Kathy and I looked at it, and we had been planning a podcast for, a year before that. We had been planning this podcast for a while. The Elks Call name, that was an idea that we had for a year. The Turf District podcast is the other podcast crew here in Edmonton that focuses on Edmonton Elks. So we talked to them a year in advance. We had this set up for quite a while. And once TSN 1260 shut down, Kathy and I knew that we had to be a part of this and to get sports talk on the airwaves back in Edmonton once again. And that's exactly what we did. So we went ahead and did that. At around the same time we launched our podcast, the guys from TSN 1260, or at least a big chunk of them, ended up creating Edmonton Sports Talk. So interestingly enough, our podcast went on the air. We were able to have those guys on, help them promote a little bit. In turn, our podcast is the Elks Call is now on Edmonton Sports Talk on Friday nights, 8 p.m. Mountain. So beautiful story about how something went really bad, but in the end, it actually ended up being really good for everybody involved. So
Um, being a fan of the Elks, like I said earlier, the attendance issues. Um, what what do you think has been affected to fix any of the issues that y'all had? Or what do you think could be done?
Well, see, here in Edmonton, we do have an issue with the community ownership model. Unfortunately, you don't have an owner that's at the top. You have a board of directors and then a president under the board, and then it kind of goes down from there. So we don't have an owner that can come in and say, hey, let's do this, let's do that, let's fix this, let's fix that. So what we have to do here is try to reinvent the wheel, which is your fan experience at a football game, because it's usually the same. You got a mini concert, cheer on defense, make some noise, cheerleaders. The football games are a very, very standard thing. There's not too much you can do to spruce other than have sweet contests, have sweet halftime shows, which we haven't had. We had Swifties contest last year. That was really, really helpful. But one of the biggest fixes that we can do is get the college kids more involved. The Edmonton Elks managed to pull off a sweet campus class last year, which had really good prices for college kids. I think it was like $15 tickets, cheap booze, cheap hot dogs, whatever. And they were able to get an extra 3,000 people in, which was college kids. They had an extra 3,000 that made it in and went to the game. Now, with next year, they're going to be shutting down the upper bowl of Commonwealth Stadium, which seats around 25,000. Lower bowl is around 30,000. So the bulk of your attendance is still going to be down below. And what they're doing with this is they're closing this upper bowl in hopes that the fans are going to have a better experience down in the lower bowl, all squeezed together, all cheering together, and that's going to make a better game atmosphere. I don't think that that's necessarily it. I think winning is the biggest factor in your attendance. If your team is winning, we can take a look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They sold out their last 5 games. They sold them all out at like a 33 to 35K capacity or whatever. It's between 30 and 40, but IG Field was absolutely packed. We're talking about a team that is a Grey Cup contender and has been for the last 4 years, had a dynasty on the line, once again fell that short. That's okay with me. Doesn't hurt any of the Double E's records, but realistically, we can't really look at anything else other than winning. In 2015, when the Edmonton Elks Eskimos then were in their Grey Cup contending season, the attendance for the Labor Day Classic was like 41 to 44,000, and then same deal for the Western semifinal. The Western semi was also at a 40K plus attendance. So, in my opinion, I think all we need to do is win a 22 home losing streak. You can't lose 22 games at home in a row across 4 years. You're going to lose fans in that circumstance. So it's just a matter of winning for this team. And then once again, do more of the college stuff, do a little bit more of the grassroots, try to get more kids and younger people into the building.